like,
what was it? What was it? War Pigs playing in the song?
Yeah, the trailer gives this like epic. It feels like, okay, we're gonna follow the like world's greatest conqueror, leader, military general as he rises through the ranks and is winning battles, and like why the world follows this man. And it just, that wasn't really the movie that we got. Like that stuff was like in it in the background.
Give it to Kyle. Calm down. Say, well, everybody should have one.
Have a fucking cigar.
Welcome back.
Hi.
Welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
I'm Kyle.
And that is Kyle. Kyle's a little under the weather. Bear with him.
Don't judge my voice.
He's sipping on some hot dick and cider. Anyway.
Okay, that's not true. I did have my first cup of nog this week. Old eggnog.
What's your brand?
That's actually a great eggnog question. There's a lot of people out there that hate eggnog. I love it.
I do too.
Every human in my family hates it. I fucking love it. I like it. I like my nog a little bit more runny. Like I like it more liquidy as opposed to thick.
Thick.
So, I went with the Hy-Vee brand this time around. And I basically picked up the Hy-Vee brand, and I think it's a Southern Comfort one, which I already kind of don't like. And I could tell the Hy-Vee one was more liquidy. So I went that route, and it's actually great. I drank the whole fucking carton in one night. So
there you go. All right. Whew, cholesterol. Who cares?
Right in the veins.
Lando Lakes makes a light eggnog. That is, its consistency is like thick milk. It's awesome. And
this is the best conversation about eggnog I've ever had in my life.
That's mine. But if I'm going straight thick eggnog, Anderson Erickson, 100%, all the way. That's the one.
Love that.
Yeah, we're big eggnog people in this house. My wife, like, they sold it in gallons, she'd buy it.
Every year I try to turn one of my family members onto it, and this year I tried to get one of my kids to like it. I'm like, it's just, you guys drink 40 gallons of milk a day, like it's just sweet milk
with egg.
Yes, and well, that would probably make
spices.
Him not drink it. But so, like, Grayson actually tried it. He literally went, "Ugh, ugh." And so anytime I pour a cup, I hear him in the background. He'll go, "Ugh."
There's a little bit of a dynamic between Reagan and my wife about eggnog, because like Abby will go to bed and like Reagan will
drink it all
to the fridge and she'll like get a big old glass.
Fuck,
and Abby will wake up the next day and be like, "Who drank my eggnog?
Fee, fi, fo, fum. Who drank my eggnog?
I smell the blood of an eggnog, son."
Merry Christmas, people.
Well, happy Thanksgiving, because this episode's probably coming out on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, and practice Christmas season's over. Christmas season is here. It is time.
In the words of Shao Kahn, or actually, I guess it's more of God. Who's the other guy? Not Shao Kahn. Shang Tsung. Yeah. It has begun.
That's it.
That's kind of where we're at. So
that's it. But Christmas season. This is the Movie Dads podcast, episode number 28. We were supposed to do. I can't believe you haven't seen it. For me, for the Road to El Dorado, but we've decided we're gonna log that one away for January, and we went and saw the new Ridley Scott, Joaquin Phoenix biopic, Napoleon
Bonaparte.
So this is
that
episode 20.
Spanish.
Yeah, it was okay. You started off French. It's all right.
Yeah.
So episode 28, we're doing Napoleon. Big premiere, movie of the week, Napoleon. It's a biopic. So like Oppenheimer, I guess we'll do a spoiler warning, but it's a biopic. I mean, this shit really happened, and it happened a couple 100 years ago. So we'll do a spoiler warning, but whatever. You know, you get it.
Yeah. I'm with
it. Hopefully you're watching us on YouTube. If you are, click the like and subscribe. Hit that bell. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can catch us on several different podcast networks, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Google Podcasts, and Podcast Index. And you can check us out on social media and see some of our short clips and other posts at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Kyle, we're movie dads. We've got movie kids. Ooh, boy. It wasn't not a ton this week. Kids are out of school now. They're on Thanksgiving break, which is fantastic. We've had some pretty great weather, so the kids have still been able to be playing outside, hanging out with their friends, all that good stuff, which is great. We talked a little bit last week, I think, about Reagan wrestling. She had another wrestling meet this week. Again, opponent, she goes, it's time for her. Opponent, forfeit. Again.
Is she wearing like a gladiator helmet or something when she walks up?
No, she just is not.
Who wants this?
Yeah. So she's not lucky. But one of her teammates, who's in the same weight class, who had already wrestled, said, I'll do it. You know, let's go. So then that way Reagan had an opponent. And so if you've ever watched if you know how wrestling scoring is, the way this works is 3 short rounds. They do points, but if you pin your opponent, it's over, right? Like
Game
it's an
over.
automatic victory. So first round, pretty even. Girl got Reagan down. I think she scored 1 point at the end of the round. Second round, Reagan had to start in the down position, so obviously very difficult to get out of. But Reagan was able to stand up. Again, like minimal points. I think going into the third, I think the other girl was up 3-0, right? So coach is like, this is it. Like it's last round. You're down.
Leon Edwards moment.
You're down 3. You gotta
pull it out of the fire.
And so she goes out there and boom, slams her down. Boom, flips her over and pins her in like 10 seconds.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Let's fucking go.
It was pretty cool.
Hell yeah, Reagan. Whooping ass.
Yeah.
Love that.
At the same time, it was actually one of her own teammates. It wasn't a different school, in this meet. But so,
everyone can get the smoke.
Yeah. My wife went up and found that girl and she's like, thanks for, agreeing to do that and stuff. We appreciate it. So it was nice. But it's Reagan.
Love that.
Yeah, it sucks when the kid's sitting there for 2 hours and it's finally her turn at the meet.
What the fuck?
We're all there,
Is there not like like ahead of time, would they be able to be like, all right, we need someone that's going to be fucking wrestling her?
She had an opponent, and then like the girl was like got hurt, I guess, in practice or something, and it was like she couldn't go.
God. But so Reagan just fucking turned and looked at her teammate on the bench and said, I'm going to fucking beat your ass. No. Get your ass out there.
I think the coach was like, God. we'll see if we find anybody else that could go, and it's like,
I'm taking this out on you. Bitch. Fuck yeah. Nice. Nice.
It was cool.
Trying to think of what we did this week that was out of the ordinary. Like you said, not really anything crazy. Grayson didn't have school today, but while my wife and I still needed to work. And so like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, our baby and our middle child both go to daycare. So we were still sending them today. We didn't care that Grayson didn't have school. But Parker would have freaked out if he knew that Grayson didn't have to go to school, but he did. So all morning, Grayson and I were like, yep, everyone's got to get ready. We're going to school. And then Grayson would go, and I got to go to school too, Parker. And then would look at me and would go. So that was funny. So we took them. They went to school, and Grayson stayed home and played video games. And I told him, once I get done, dude, we'll bring your TV down and we'll do a LAN party. He was like, what the hell is a LAN party? He didn't say hell, but he said, what's a LAN party? I was like, dude,
what the fuck's a LAN party, Dad?
The fuck are you talking about? It's dude, it's the greatest memories of all time that I have. It's sitting in a room with separate TVs, separate gaming consoles, and just playing video games with your buddies. And he was like, let's do that. So he brought his TV from his room, his Xbox, and he was playing some zombie Minecraft game while I was playing Starfield. Just a couple of bros gaming, living our truth. And it was a good moment.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's cool.
So
good deal.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, it was not a ton of stuff. It was I don't know, slow kid week, right? We're getting into the winter months, so there's gonna be a lot of those.
Yeah.
Most of these stories are gonna end up being like, well, all the neighborhood kids were at my house today. I can tell by looking around this basement.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so funny you say that, because at some point Grayson ditched me to go grab like the neighborhood kids, and like I just heard chaos upstairs for like an hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I finished like getting some work done and wrapping up and went up there, Steph had taken the kids to grandma's, and so everyone was gone. But I walked upstairs and like it was like a horror show. Like they had a full setup of like 600 dinosaurs versus like 700 Green Army guys in one spot. Every weapon that we had, toy weapon, was all over everywhere. So like it's just like, what the fuck were you guys doing up here? But it was like all the neighborhood kids.
Pretty awesome though.
Crazy. I like it.
Good.
Well, yeah, let's jump into our first, I guess our second segment. My favorite segment, or I guess my most excited segment. This is our 6 to midnight. This is the thing that gets us up in the morning. Things that we're interested in, new trailers, movie news, new video games, those types of things. So I will start. So something I guess I didn't really realize during the actors strike and the writers strike, I didn't really pick up that they weren't like doing any real like interviews or stories or things about like the stuff that was coming out. Like, for example, Ahsoka.
Yeah, no publicity whatsoever.
Yeah, like these episodes of Ahsoka with these like epic, like timeline changing. Hayden Christensen is back as Anakin and like Darth Vader, and we're finally getting Ahsoka, his apprentice, on TV.
Have we talked about him, Hayden Christensen, and like this renaissance for him?
I think we may have touched briefly on it, but
yeah,
I love it.
I do too.
Give me more of it. There's that clip where he's at like where I think at this point it wasn't from Ahsoka, it was the Kenobi show.
Correct.
But he had returned, and he was doing like a Star Wars Day like thing where he was like on a circle stage, huge crowd. They were going to interview him about like returning, and like the crowd was losing their minds.
Yeah.
And he had a moment that he was like trying to say thank you, and then like you could tell like I have never had it like this. Like I've never been loved as a Star Wars actor. And like all of us kids who grew up with it, or younger generation that had that, like we didn't I didn't hate Hayden Christensen when those movies were coming out. So like I love that he is now being embraced for who he should be.
I didn't care for him. I did not care for Attack of the Clones Anakin Skywalker at all. When I saw that movie and I was like, oh, he's terrible. Right? I felt like he did redeem himself in Revenge of the Sith quite a bit.
Yeah.
Because I thought Attack of the Clones, I think, is my least favorite Star Wars movie until the last one came out. But yeah,
any of the new ones came out?
Force Awakens. We've had that. We talked.
Yeah, we like that one.
But yeah, but I'm here for it. I mean, like, think about, hats off to Disney on that, because really when Kenobi came out, they didn't have to cast him as Darth Vader. They could have cast anyone in that suit. Yep. They really could have. But they made the decision to do that and show that human side again, which, we've never seen before, except for the very, very end of Return of the Jedi, right? I like it. Anyway, go back to what you're talking about. But I just want to say, like, I'm really happy about it.
Well, and I think it very much connects to what we're talking about or has a big
Mm.
part of it.
Right.
I did not really like how they used. I just didn't like the Kenobi show. I think they really dropped the ball with it. And Ahsoka, they did a much better job of bringing him back and incorporating him and hitting on like legacy feelings and like memories and moments that it was awesome. It really made that whole entire show good. Like that was the thing that made it really great. Anyways, but Dave Filoni, who has been kind of like the spiritual successor to George Lucas for a number of years, and I've talked about that specifically, about he's like, he just gets it. He's like the Star Wars guy who gets it. He did all of Attack of the Clones, the TV show, which then turned into him doing Rebels, which turned into them bringing him on to be like a producer and somewhat of a couple episode director on The Mandalorian. And so he's been the one that's always, at least more recently, Star Wars fans know he's been kind of like the guiding force behind like staying true to like Star Wars and like the vibes that we like, the things we do like, not the things we don't. And Kathleen Kennedy, total opposite. Like she doesn't fucking understand Star Wars at all.
So Kathleen Kennedy, right? So she's the head of Lucasfilm, right?
Correct.
And then
correct.
there is, and I just want to make sure I get all these names right. So she's the president of Lucasfilm. And then there's Carrie Beck, who's a veteran producer, but she's the head of development for Star Wars, right? For Lucasfilm. And then obviously we had Jon Favreau, who when Disney acquired the rights, they kind of put him in charge of some stuff too.
Yes.
And then he's the one I think that was like,
he's the one that was like, we need to bring Filoni's got to be the guy.
Correct.
So,
and that was years ago, right? When like Mandalorian first started and things like that. So,
which I think the Mandalorian was, it was the Boba Fett show they had wanted, and originally that was supposed to be a Boba Fett show. And that show kicked off like, okay, we can do Star Wars and this can work. And that like kicked off all this live action stuff, right? And now that the strike is over, it was announced in like a Vanity Fair interview that Dave Filoni is now like the head like creative director for all of Star Wars, like moving forward. So
yeah, he's now going to be called the chief creative officer at Lucasfilm.
Let's fucking go. Yeah. He is the oh shoot, I just had it on top of my head. Why can't I think of his name? What's the Marvel guy? The runs all of Marvel?
Kevin Feige.
He is the Kevin Feige to how Kevin Feige to the grand Marvel Cinematic Universe is. That's what he is now to Star Wars. And so it was for us like Star Wars fans, it's like the end of Return of the Jedi where everyone's partying and celebrating. Like, we finally got a guy who gets it and we're going to be good. It's going to like, we're going to have, because he did a lot of bringing in some of those legend stories and putting them into like folding them into these new live action shows. So like he knows the Star Wars like legacies that I think he does a good job with new stuff, but also like bringing in stuff we want to see. So
the way he put it too is, I think he said like my advisory role I had before was like when Star Wars content was getting made, I saw it then and I was able to advise. He goes, now
like after the fact.
Now I'm going to see it from its birth. And have, I'm not going to tell, he said, I'm not going to tell people what to do, but I will be there during the creative process. And I think that's exactly, like we talked a lot about Marvel last week and the week prior about, you know, the problems Marvel's having right now and what's causing it and all that. But we can't take away from the fact that Kevin Feige was a huge force in making sure everything in the creative process was cohesive and it worked. We talk, if you put the Infinity Saga alone, it's crazy, right? What they did over 20 films or whatever. Yes, there've been some roadblocks since then, but still, it was, and that's hopefully what Filoni's going to lead us into with Star Wars.
Which you kind of get a little bit of a vibe if you look, or like a kind of a microcosm of the first season of The Mandalorian, though Dave Filoni was just a producer with Favreau.
Yes.
Favreau brought him in to be like kind of you're my George Lucas to tell me what we should be doing. But they treated that season kind of like how the first and second and third phase of Marvel did, where they brought in directors. It's your movie in the Mandalorian. This is your episode. Bryce Dallas Howard, Taika Waititi, Filoni himself, Favreau, and there was one other that I'm missing. That they let them. You have your episode, but this is general direction we want to do. Here's the Star Wars stuff that you should probably have in it, and that like season 1 is just like a masterpiece, and like I am excited that I think for moving forward, we're not going to run into the downfall of the newer trilogy, in that they set it up with this awesome first movie with no plans for the general arc of where it was going to go. And J.J. Abrams almost was like, I set this up to basically tell you where it should and could go, but I'm leaving it open enough that whoever comes in could do something cool with it, or fucking ruin it. They fucking ruined it. So, so I think we shouldn't see those types of things.
Correct.
And I think there's probably going to be a little bit more forgiveness from us because we trust the guy who's in charge. So
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly.
Bring it on.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, if you talk about the Star Wars television shows, right, like Disney Plus shows, I think we all agree Mandalorian's phenomenal, right?
Yeah.
Overall,
so
whether one season's better than the other or not, it's still great.
Yeah, for sure.
Boba Fett had its problems. Obi-Wan had its problems, right? I don't think Obi-Wan was bad. With you, it was like, it could have been better. Andor was hugely acclaimed. Pretty cool story.
Everyone loved Andor.
Yeah, and then obviously Ahsoka was fantastic. So,
yeah,
we should see more. Content like that.
We've talked about this with Kenobi. You have Ewan McGregor and you have Hayden Christensen, and they were brothers that basically tried to kill each other, and one semi did, and the one's whole life is regretting it. Like, you had the moment to be able to have so much powerful like feelings, and they just didn't do a good job with it. So
yeah.
Anyways, so Dave Filoni in charge of Star Wars now. Give me that. If you haven't watched the show's Rebels and you like the original trilogy, Rebels is like the closest like Star Wars setting, feeling, vibe, sounds, music that's the closest to like A New Hope that you can get in Star Wars. It's a really, really great series. You should watch that. Clone Wars, same. There's a lot of seasons there, so it's a lot to digest. But go check that stuff out if you're interested in seeing what Filoni's going to do, because he's a big Darth Maul guy. We've talked about Darth Maul. He's the best live action Sith like ever. And Dave Filoni was the guy who was like, yeah, I know that, and I'm going to bring him back.
Right.
And I want him alive, and I want him one of my main bad guys. And like did a fucking awesome job. Brought Sam Witwer to be the voice of him, and like he is now generally most people look at him as like who Darth Maul is, as opposed to just the main actor who played him in
Ray Park.
Menace, Ray Park, who's also a badass. There's a really cool podcast interview with both of them, like talking about their sides to Darth Maul. So anyways, go check it out. What do you got for me for yours, Howie?
So mine, did a little casting roundup. So we got a little bit of Star Wars casting, which I think is pretty cool. The biggest one was, and I remember this rumor came out before they had cast Superman for James Gunn's new Superman movie. But we got confirmation that Nicholas Hoult is going to play Lex Luthor, because there were rumors, if you remember, that he was in the talks to play Superman. And then people were like, no, he's actually going to play Lex Luthor. But then there was nothing else after that. And then we had all this strike. And that's why we're getting all this movie news now, is because of that. But anyway, confirmed, Nicholas Hoult will be Lex Luthor. Boy, I mean, like, when you think Nicholas Hoult,
what do you think about that?
He's been making movies since he was a kid. Okay. Child actor. He was the kid in like About a Boy, if you've ever seen that, like with Hugh Grant. He's the kid in that. I mean, like, he's Hank McCoy in the X-Men First Class, right? He's Beast. So he's done those. I haven't seen him in like a villain role.
Yeah.
He was kind of a sleazeball in that one that came out last year with Ray Fiennes and Anya Taylor-Joy on The Menu. He's in that, and he's kind of a bad guy, sleazeball weirdo in that. But I don't know. What do you think?
He was the main character, and I think it was called Sandcastle on Netflix, right? Was it Sandcastle? Basically, he is like he's a soldier in the Middle East during the War on Terror, and it's just like a self-contained story of like being like a soldier on patrol and like dealing with just stuff in the middle of the Middle East, in like Afghanistan or Iraq, and it's actually a phenomenal movie on Netflix. So I'm pretty sure it's called Sandcastle. That might not be the right name. But he does it in that movie. Like, it's a great acting showcase for him, because he's doing a lot of back and forth of like, are we doing the right thing? Should we be doing this? Making friends with some of the locals that end up turning on them, and also some that end up getting killed. And it's just like, he does a really good job. They're basically spend the whole movie trying to build like a water source for like a local village or something. I'm pretty sure it's called Sandcastle. That might be.
And it was a movie?
Yeah, on Netflix. Hold on.
I'm looking. Here we go. Sandcastle. There it is. You're right. You got it.
I was like, I'm not fucking crazy, right? Like,
he's in a shit ton of movies, all right? I'm just looking through quite the list.
Am I talking about a movie that's not even him?
Right.
Like,
you got it.
But I specifically remember him because that was, I think, maybe the first like leading role that I watched him in, where he was the main character from start to finish, and was like, dude, this guy's a badass. And then being like, oh shit, that's Beast. Like, okay, cool.
You know what else he was really good in was Mad Max Fury Road. You remember that?
Oh shit, yes. Yeah. Okay. Fuck, yes. And he was like, he was a kind of an anti-villain, or anti-hero. He was like a bad guy, but kind of a good guy.
Yeah.
Dude, so I mean, we got him bald in that. He was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I fucking love, don't get me started. I fucking love that movie overall.
It's a masterpiece.
It's so fucking good. I think we talked about it on an episode, and I immediately watched it after we talked about it, because it's just such a good movie. I think that's a great. Go for it.
No. You're good. Keep going. I'm good.
I think that's personally, I am excited for that. Way different whenever Jesse Eisenberg got hired, and I'm like, why? Like, are we going just because you want us to hate the guy? Yes, great job. I already hate him, but I not in a way that I want to watch him.
I feel like that's kind of where I'm at. Is I'm like, when they cast Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns, and like, we're not going to talk about Kevin Spacey, what's going on with him, but like when that came out, like, we all know what a force he is, right? And he as a villain, and we've seen it. And then I thought he nailed the character too, as much as that movie's, whatever you want to think about Superman Returns. He was great. And
I thought he did a good job. It really reminded me of the Gene Hackman.
Yes, very version. Much so. Kind of the very campy, comical, but very sinister at the same time.
Yes.
That's who Gene Hackman was. But yeah, I'm open to it. I don't think this is going to be like Heath Ledger's Joker, but at the same time, it's very much like, all right, let's see what he does. Because I'd like to see a really good comic accurate Lex Luthor. I would.
Dude, I honestly, like, there's two ways that they can be successful. They really only have to follow number one. Number one, watch Jesse Eisenberg in it and do nothing
Don't do
that he did. Do not a single thing that he did.
Right.
Don't fucking finger bang a guy with a fucking Jolly Rancher, or I will hate you for the rest of your life. Or number two, I would say, and you will be able to say the actor who did the voice, but Lex Luthor in Superman animated series and the Justice League show, which I think is the same guy from Starship Troopers. Put your hand on that wall.
Oh, Clancy Brown?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
I'm looking at it.
Does the voice of him. That might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. His Lex Luthor, or at least whoever the guy is that does the cartoon one, is awesome. Like, that's my Lex Luthor. But also that's who I grew up with, listening to or seeing. So I think
that might be right. Good Lord. There's, again, I'm looking at
I'm pretty sure because he's done a ton of like voice acting stuff.
Clancy Brown does a ton of voice acting work.
Yeah, he's got the voice for it. So
he can be a bad guy. He can be Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob. I mean,
yeah, he's done so many famous,
let's be honest,
people that we don't even know.
Yeah.
So I think that casting will be, he's a much more well-known actor than
he has done Lex Luthor numerous times. Yes. Clancy Brown.
Cool.
So
that's what I thought. And he did a great job with it. So
yeah,
I like we're getting a much more famous actor than Superman, which I think is, I wouldn't say
about
like
that too.
he's like super famous.
We got some pictures of him like getting ready for the role.
Keep lifting.
He looks pretty
Keep
jacked.
lifting, dog. Yeah. Eat that protein.
Taking dry scoops.
Yeah. I think they posted like him in like a fucking hoodie, but it was like him at the gym. So everyone's like, all right, good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the same thing happened when Pattinson got signed as Batman. Everyone's like, you better fucking go lift weights, bro.
Sparkly. And then just a little bit other casting roundup for Superman. We got our Jimmy Olsen, which is Scott. I'm going to butcher his last name, Skylar Gisondo, who is in Righteous Gemstones. He's in that. And then he was like the son in the National Lampoon's like sequel. Yep.
Yes.
So he's been in a bunch of other movies too. I think he was in Santa Clarita Diet, and then he's in a bunch of stuff.
Yes, I just saw one of the movies that I just saw him listed for, and I was like, oh, I forgot that he's the son in that movie. So
he's one of those people, like if you see him, you're like, oh, I've seen that guy in other stuff before, but I probably don't know his name. So he's going to be Jimmy Olsen, which I think that's pretty good casting. He looks like Jimmy Olsen. And then we got Sarah Sampaio, probably butchered that too. She's most known for being a Victoria's Secret model. She's Portuguese, but she's going to play Ms. Tessmacher, which is usually a character that works for Lex Luthor.
In the
original movies and stuff. Yeah. So, but she's in the comics as well. But anyway, that rounds that out. And then obviously the biggest casting news that I did a video on, like a reaction video, and posted it on social media, is Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards in the Fantastic Four movie, right? Like
Zaddy, get it? God,
I'm okay with it. There's a lot of people that are upset.
What?
There
was a single human out there that complained about that.
Yeah, there's another. Wow. There's been a bunch of articles too about that and how money is Marvel's biggest problem right now, which I don't think it is. Like, listen, is Pedro Pascal currently like hot shit? Yes, 100%. He's in a lot of stuff. I still don't think I'd go out of my way to say he's like upper echelon movie star right now. Would you?
I would say like He's like in the top 10 from this past year of like most famous like TV and movie, but not like, oh, he's crushing it for movies.
Right.
Because a lot of his stuff is like TV or shows, I guess.
It is. Yeah, I mean, like Last of Us, and obviously he's Mando in The Mandalorian.
Fucking Mando.
I think that's an awesome choice as Reed Richards. I'm here for it. I think it's great. Like, if that guy wants to do a bunch of Marvel movies, I'm here for it. Let's go.
Welcome to the fucking all-star team, other all-star.
Yeah.
Fucking A, DC. Pull your head out of your ass. Who the hell is Skylar Grivaldi? Give me fucking Pedro Pascal as fucking Jimmy Olsen. God damn it.
It's one of those things too. And then there was an article today, and I can't remember I can't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Deadline or what, but it was basically somebody did an interview with John Hamm about the new season. I don't know if you saw this, but about the new season of Fargo, because he's in the new season of Fargo. Oh. And right, yeah. And because Fargo's its own thing, right? Each season's its own thing. So they can cast big name people because they're not tied down to doing multiple seasons of a show. He's in the new season, and Marvel got brought up, and he goes, I want in. I want to do Marvel. And he goes, I would love for somebody to call and ask me to be Dr. Doom. And I was thinking to myself, and I'm like, I don't think I'd be mad at that, because I know he can play a villain. But there were also rumors this week. This came out right after the Pedro Pascal news, is that Marvel wants Mads Mikkelsen to be Victor Von Doom. Now, he has already been a Marvel villain, but obviously with the multiverse stuff, they can do whatever they want. You do whatever you want. They can do whatever you want.
I know technically we're not like you are connected to Marvel as much as I am, but it almost feels kind of like our Chiefs Jags thing at all times. Like DC is like, it's like I can never win. Marvel just fucking, no matter what they do, they fucking find a way. And no matter what DC does, they find a way to fuck it up. It's so annoying. I would love John Hamm. You know, for the longest time,
that one. I like that.
He I know a lot of people have their thoughts about Mad Men, but I fucking love that show. Very much inspired my wardrobe for years in higher ed. But a lot of people wanted him to play Batman for a while. I think he's too old now, but
he is for sure.
Yeah, and he's like not really in shape, or I don't think he ever really was.
He's good enough. I think he could get there.
Oh, you think he could still be Batman? You think he should or could?
If they did like a, older version of Batman, like, if they did like a Thomas Wayne, kind of deal, I'd be okay with that, I think. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. I mean, I was fine with what they did with Michael Keaton, but of course that's, it's because of who he is.
It's for sure.
But anyway, I'd be okay with either one of those Dr. Doom castings. 100%.
I fucking love the character of Dr. Doom.
Like, he should be the focus they put on instead of Kang. If they're going to get rid of all this Jonathan Major stuff and get rid of Kang, this needs to be Dr. Doom.
I think the Kang thing was more of like, all right, we did Thanos. Yep. And people that know the comics know that Thanos is a big bad.
Yep.
But the general public don't fucking know who Thanos is. And they did a good job of making him this shadowy, dark figure in the background for so long that by the time he hit, we were like, all right, we're fucking ready for this guy.
Yep.
I think Doctor Doom would be fucking awesome.
And he's probably more well known in the mainstream because, we all know Thanos was Marvel's answer to Darkseid. That was where he came from. But Dr. Doom needs to be the next big bad. I think 100%. I think it's the way they need to go. Speaking of Kang, that news came out this week too, right? Marvel's apparently distancing themselves from Jonathan Majors. Like everything we talked about last week as far as that then they lost their director and their head writer off that movie, off the Avengers movie, The Kang Dynasty.
I didn't see that.
Okay, so the guy that directed Shang-Chi, for butcher his name, but he was signed on to do the Kang Dynasty, which he's now not attached to. He is not going to do it, but he's still going to do Shang-Chi too. So it's not like he had a falling out with Marvel. So what's going on?
That's weird.
I think
they're time out before
reset button.
Before which, let's say the reset button wasn't hit, and this Kang Dynasty Avengers movie is coming out. Mm-hmm. Who are the main Avenger characters in that movie? Go.
Shang-Chi. Anthony Mackie's
Don't care.
Captain America.
Don't care.
Doctor Strange.
Okay, we got one of the Avengers there.
Tom Holland, Spider-Man.
Okay.
No, nobody knows who he is. So probably not.
Good point. And yeah. No Thor? No Captain America?
Thor, maybe?
Yeah.
Iron Man?
Yeah, like where is everyone that's interesting?
Zombie Iron Man?
I hope they sat down and had this conversation because like that's just how we did the whole episode on this. I'm not talking about it anymore, but like
Destin Daniel Cretton. I don't know if I said that right, but he was the
director.
That's the director. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Too many questions. Anyway, that's casting roundup. This is the second longest 6 to Midnight. Last week's was the longest. This is the second longest 6 to Midnight. It's because we're getting all this news. We're getting all this content.
Yeah, we got to get it out.
Things are happening.
Yeah, and I think our Napoleon review will be pretty short.
It will. It will. We should just go into that, don't you think?
Yeah.
Let's get into our big premiere movie of the week. The 2023 Ridley Scott directed, Joaquin Phoenix starring, not instant classic, Napoleon.
Instant what the hell?
So Kyle and I got to see this movie together, which is good because we haven't gotten to do that in a while for a new movie. We went last night, which was Tuesday night because it was opening night and it was $5 Tuesday. Can't beat that. At the movie theater. We got late night tickets. Theater wasn't very busy.
The lobby was really busy.
Yeah, they were all going to see.
There was a shit ton of people there, and none of them went to see Napoleon.
They were all there with their kids because they're out of school.
So, apparently, nobody wanted to see a fucking 3.5 hour movie. It
wasn't even that long.
It
just felt like it. So yeah, we got to see it together. Which I'm not a big fan of talking during the movie, but there was a couple times where I just was like, "What the fuck was going on?"
Yeah, what is
you were like,
happening?
I don't know. But anyway, we'll just give some initial thoughts on the movie. We'll give a quick spoiler warning. There's not a whole lot to talk about, but again, it's a biopic. But I think more what we'll talk about after the spoiler warning is just the specific choices that were made, in specifically about this movie. And then, then we'll give our overall review. But spoiler free at the beginning. Big fan of Joaquin Phoenix. I think the guy is a great actor. He plays a lot of different roles.
Mm-hmm.
I like Ridley Scott. He has a lot of really good movies. He's had some duds lately.
Mm-hmm.
In all reality, right? Like he got us back into the Alien franchise, which is where he had this big, huge start in the 70s. With Prometheus, and you've talked about that, and we talked about Alien Covenant and what those movies were like, and those were tough. He had the what's the one that came out? Was that last year? The Matt Damon, Adam Driver, they were knights or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that?
The Last Duel.
Yeah, did you see that?
I actually liked that movie. I thought that was a great movie.
I look boring. I didn't see it. So
it's a really interesting acting movie. The acting was really great. The story is it was a good movie. It wasn't one of his duds. I'll just say
good.
that.
Okay,
so
anyway,
it gave me feelings, if that makes sense. Like I was I'm conflicted with this.
Ridley Scott, I think, has lost a little of his shine in recent years. That's just my opinion.
For sure.
I didn't like this movie. I did not care for it. I had problems with almost everything. I thought the writing was poor. I thought the directing was poor, except for the action sequences. And
that's a good point.
I didn't like the acting so much. Like, I think Joaquin Phoenix is a great actor. I don't know if this was the way he was supposed to portray Napoleon based on the script, which probably was, but he was boring to me.
Yeah, he didn't hit. Mm-mm. He swung, but he did not connect with the ball. Yeah, I think the coolest part about this movie was the trailer.
Oh yeah, with the war, what was it? What was it? War pigs playing in the song?
Yeah, the trailer gives this epic. It feels like, okay, we're gonna follow the world's greatest conqueror, leader, military general as he rises through the ranks and is winning battles, and why the world follows this man. And that wasn't really the movie that we got. That stuff was in it in the background, and most of those parts were shown in the trailer. The rest of the movie, it was spent basically showing his relationship with him and Josephine, which I know, and that's a huge part of Napoleon's story. But he was kind of like a weenie whose wife didn't love him, and he was just constantly getting embarrassed by her and taking it. But it didn't feel like we were watching this freaking epic general conquering and taking over and rising. It was like they kind of just in this scene, they just randomly mentioned oh, now you're going to be the first king or whatever, as his wife and him were just talking about that she had cheated on him.
Yeah.
It's what is going on?
We'll just get into
where are we?
Right. The recommendations. No, don't go see it. Just wait.
Yeah,
it'll be on Apple streaming. Hopefully by Christmas.
I agree.
You can watch it then. We'll just do, if you don't want to know details of the movie, here's your spoiler warning. Again, it's a biopic.
I guess I just kind of gave it away.
You gave a little bit. It's fine. It's a biopic. You can look all this stuff up. We're going to talk about the choices they made in this movie and what we didn't like about it. So,
get out.
How much we didn't like. But anyway, get out. Spoiler warning. Yeah. So the stuff you were talking about, there are scenes in this movie where him and his wife have a fight, and then they're talking on a couch, and then it fast forwards to later in the same evening, and they're still talking on the couch, but their moods changed. And then it's the next morning, and they're still talking on the couch. Who the fuck cares? I don't. There's nothing that's dynamic about their relationship that correlates with the scenes that we're seeing, right?
Oh, dude, yes, exactly.
It doesn't make any sense to me. The choices that were made doesn't make any sense. You're basically saying she liked to sleep around on him when he was off at war. Okay. And then he was a cuck, basically. Yes. I don't know. I don't even know what they're trying to tell us about Napoleon. There's a few, it starts off okay, and it's, he goes undercover and he's spying on the British at this port, and then they're going to go attack it, and he's the one that they're going to use to lead the attack because he has this plan to take over the port, right? Basically, they're going to get the cannons back first, then they're going to use their own cannons that the English have taken to blow up all the ships. Great.
Yeah.
Has this awesome plan. That scene's cool. It's not very long, right? The battle doesn't last very long. Then he gets made general, and then we get right into him and Josephine, basically, right after that.
That scene was fucking memorable because his horse takes a fucking cannonball to the chest.
Blows up.
Boom! That was oh, shit. That's where I thought, okay, this movie's going to be fucking awesome.
Yeah, we talked about that. It's holy shit, this is going to be Braveheart level fucking blowing violence, limbs getting chopped off, blood spraying everywhere.
Yeah.
No, that was the most graphic scene, was the horse getting blown up in the cannon.
Yeah. I think they were trying to basically wrap the movie around this powerful relationship between two people who are kindred connected for their lives. They love each other, but they hate each other, or they love each other and one constantly is hurting the other, which is pretty common in a lot of relationships these days. But the problem with it is to do that and for it to be interesting, you have to believe that they love each other or that they're connected. And I never once got the vibe that she liked him at all and she wanted anything to do with him at all.
Right. It
And
felt,
that
yeah. No, go
it
ahead.
felt more like she was like the popular girl in high school and he was the nerd who had a crush on her and was trying to force it to work, which maybe that's what they were trying to say. Maybe Josephine never loved him. But I think based on the relationship of them being like best friends for life, like we would have felt that a little bit more, but there was none of that. I didn't get that.
If they're going to tell that story and that's the focus of the movie, then you need to give me two actors that I give a shit about in the relationship. I like Vanessa Kirby. I like Joaquin Phoenix. I don't like them as a couple because there was no chemistry whatsoever.
None,
it
not
was
at all.
zero. Like even the scenes where, okay, there's this 2.5 hour long story about how he needs to produce an heir and she can't get pregnant. And like, there's so many random scenes of him just jackhammering away on her. And then it's like, you know, and
rabbit machine gunning her from the back for 5 seconds. And then it was great point. So they make this huge deal about him needing an heir. He literally divorces her because she cannot give him a baby.
Yeah.
And he gets married off to someone that he can't have a baby with. They have the baby, and then you never see the baby again. They never talk about the heir again.
Negative.
They never show it. And that was a big part of like the driving force in their relationship.
Takes the baby to go see his wife that he divorced. He's like, hey, look, I got a baby now. But he wasn't even mean about it. He's like, look at this baby. Like, aren't you happy for me?
Now we have one. Like,
like, no, you fucking weirdo. And again, listen, this is a biopic. It's allegedly, it's about the way Napoleon was. But like, if you're gonna look at history, and one of the greatest military commanders in history, right? Like you talk about, we've talked Alexander the Great, right? You talk about like Attila the Hun, like you talk about Genghis Khan, right? Like Napoleon Bonaparte's on that list because he's brought up about, he conquered Italy and Germany and Austria, and like he fought off the British when they tried to invade France. He fought off the Russians. He marched into Moscow, like
marched down to Egypt. Like,
he marched into
crazy shit.
There's all this crazy shit. He had all these battle strategies and things like that. And they give you a taste of it in the movie, but it's not like, but that's not what the movie's about.
Yeah, it's like not the meat of the movie.
It's like if you're playing a video game, those are the side quests.
Yes, yeah.
It just doesn't, but it doesn't make sense because I felt like that's the story they should have told. If you're gonna make a romance about a historical figure, then you need to do two things. You need to market it as a romance so people know that's what it's about. And then you actually need to make that interesting and just focus on that more. I don't even know how I could say like to make it right, because I felt like they've done that in some movies where they focused on the romance part, even when you're talking about a historical figure, which is fine, but market it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
And then like,
because guys like me, like I was going in of like, all right, conquer, war, let's do it. Like put my football helmet on and run through a wall. That's not what we got.
It's not what we got at all. No.
I will say there was two. I mean, there was a couple war scenes, but usually they were pretty short.
Yeah.
There was two that were a little bit more extended. The one where basically they trick, I think Austria and Russia to come in onto a frozen lake. And like, that was a little bit more extended and was kind of cool how basically they were.
But it was like the main part of the trailers.
Yes, it was the main part of the trailer. So we already saw that was going to happen. We got way more like visual of like the water of like the cannons busting up and people falling through. So like I like, because I like when they show him like in his captain's or general's tent, like talking through kind of tactics and things like that, which you got a little bit of that during that scene. and then there's like one essentially kind of a final battle where I think it's famous because it's one that he lost.
The Battle of Waterloo.
Yes, and so they really show that was like the longest one, and this is kind of one of like my biggest problem with the movie is that this movie is about a guy who is generally known as like the greatest tactician of all time when it comes to war as a general, and really the only scene where we got to see him from like start to finish as the tactician was the one that he lost, and it looked like he didn't know what he was doing, or that he was just kind of desperately like, I've got 10,000 men, you've got 40,000, I don't have a chance. But
so the setup there is basically like, listen, Napoleon's this great soldier, captain, gets promoted to general, then he's this great general, and he's like the lead general, right? So then, obviously they talk about the French Revolution at the beginning. Napoleon is already in the military by then, and then he starts kind of becoming this, like, he's almost like the hammer, right, for the whoever's in charge of the French government at that point. They don't really have anybody in charge because they've gotten rid of the monarchy during the French Revolution. So then they have 3 consuls, right? Consul 1, Consul 2, Consul 3. He's Consul 1, right? Basically, he joins a partnership and they overtake the French government and they take over, right?
Yeah.
He's also like the head of the military. Well, when you're the head of the military, you can make yourself in charge. So that's how he makes himself emperor of France, right? Like he basically takes over, which is, that's what happened. Then he keeps conquering and doing all this other stuff, and he wants to join a partnership with Russia, but then Russia kind of slights him. Same thing with Austria, and then he ends up kicking the shit out of Austria and then joins in with them.
Yeah.
And it's all basically, they keep talking about how much he hates the British and he wants to, take over, Great Britain. And anyway, that's how ultimately it's his downfall. Russia ends up siding with Great Britain. They get the other parties in France to oust him.
Yeah.
He gets sent to exile. He's in exile for a year, and he's like, fuck this. I'm going back to France, and I'm taking
coming
it back
home,
over.
baby.
And he does. And he comes back, and he takes it back over.
Yeah.
And then, so basically, then you have the Prussians, the Russians, the Austrians, and the British, and the other forces of France that are not on his side.
Yeah, basically the rebels
They're
that
all
he is
surrounding him. So then he's like, okay, we're going to have to take these guys out first and then go fight these guys because they've got like 1 million soldiers and we got like 150 or 200,000.
Yeah.
So we got to take them out. And basically that's how he loses the Battle of Waterloo. He's not able to defeat the British before the Prussians come, and he loses, right? And then they have to retreat. And so then he gets sent to exile again. Like, how much of a badass is a guy in history when you get exiled from your own country and you're like, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go back. And you do. He just does. Yeah. And he does. He takes it back over. It's crazy.
He was exiled to 2 separate islands that were all for himself. Like how what a badass.
But it's like after the first exile, it's like they don't talk about, I think, enough about how it's kind of just slighted, like he takes over a ship, and then
like how he came back and was like, and then, like, all by himself over. And now he's, because they show a little moment where he basically, as he's clearly walking through like towns, he's picking up some steam of people behind him, but then like there was there's a group of soldiers that are sent to dispatch him, and then that was a moment that I thought was cool, where he like was walking up with like brothers, like, I love my country, I miss you, and then they like slowly are like, long live the emperor. Like I thought that was cool. That was a moment, was like, all right, let's fucking go. Yes. I wanted more of that, and that was at the end of the movie.
Yes.
I
thought the first and second acts were terrible. I thought the third act redeemed itself a little bit, but at the same time, I felt like it was too late.
Yes. I think that was kind of what we were saying. We were walking out of the theater in the parking lot, was it felt like the stuff that was at the end should have been at the beginning, and like the love and relationship stuff could have waited. Like do that other war stuff first so that we know like what makes him tick.
Yep.
So, because when we're watching the love stuff and he's being like a cuck and like a total loser, at that point, we haven't seen him do any badass war stuff where we're like, no, he's actually a badass. We're
Yeah.
just like, God, this little weenie is just weird. So it was also just, I mean, I know that they're going to do a movie where everyone speaks English, even though it's in France and they
Right.
should all be French. But like sometimes when they do that, like everyone will have kind of a French accent, or they'll just go full like they're going to speak French and we'll have subtitles. Obviously, they're not going to do that with Joaquin.
Right.
But they just went full of like, nope, we're not even going to mess with that.
Yep.
Joaquin, you're going to be an American. You're going to speak like an American. And then your head French like partner in crime is going to speak with like a European Russian accent or whatever. Like they all just had weird or British accents.
Yeah, most of the French were British, so
yeah.
I guess.
So it was. I guess for Americans, anytime you do a movie with any foreigners, you just give them a British accent, and it'll work.
We'll call it good. Yeah.
But it was it really took me out of the immersion of just kind of listening to Joaquin. It just felt like we're in this French area, and then all of a sudden this like Wild West cowboys and pretending to be Napoleon. It was just like this.
Yeah, it's weird. There was a lot of weird choices. I talked about how choppy this movie was too, and it was like you'd be in a scene and then you'd be in another scene, then you'd go back to a scene and then you'd be in a scene, and then there was so much going on, but none of it was cohesive. Like it didn't feel like it was flowing at all. It was like we're going to be here and then we're going to go there and then we're going to be here and then we're going to go there. And sometimes there were okay, so like there were scenes that I was just like, I don't understand why that's here. So they're in Egypt, right? They're in Egypt, and then they open this sarcophagus, and he like climbs up on a box, and he like gets face to face with the mummy inside, and then he climbs back down because the mummy like moves like slightly like leans.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
Yeah,
what? There's no point.
There was no point to that, and I almost
left
wonder,
it in. Like, was there more to that scene that you cut out? Why not just cut the whole scene out? Because it didn't have any. There's no purpose. It doesn't do anything.
I almost wonder if maybe a Napoleon historians will be able to say of like they sprinkled a lot of scenes of like stories that have been told, or like maybe that's something that happened in Napoleon that everyone knows, but it was random as hell.
Yeah,
and I think like we saw Egypt in the trailer, and like the part that we saw in the trailer was essentially the only part of that, other than when they showed the tomb part.
Yep.
But they never gave us
Egypt
why are they there.
2 minutes. Like, 2 minutes. Like the whole scene's 2 minutes long.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Yeah, it was weird.
And you're right. They never at any point kind of led to like, this is what's happening now. This is where we're going to go because we need to get this done. Like there was none of like, we were bouncing. We just bounced to a new area. And we're like, okay, what's going on now? Okay, now we're at a war or battle. Okay, now we're back home. Like, what's happening? Why?
So. Yeah, it just didn't feel cohesive. It didn't feel like it flowed right. I said I wasn't a big fan of the performances. I wasn't a big fan of the story. I don't like giving low ratings, but I disliked this movie very much. Give yours.
I'm giving it a 4.
I was going to say 3. I'm serious. I think it's the lowest rating I've given in 28 episodes. And again, this wasn't a movie. Like I even gave The Flash a 5 because of Michael Keaton. I'm going to go a 3. I
would say 3, but Joaquin is in it, so he gives it a 4 for me.
But he wasn't good to me. Like I don't know what the portrayal was supposed to be, but he and I know we all know he can act. Like I don't know. It's a 3. I don't see it. Like unless
we walked in and I said, man, this reminds me, before it even started, this kind of reminds me, I hope it's not like the movie Alexander, because I thought that movie was going to be a badass conqueror movie, and it was fucking boring and horrible. And literally, I spoke it into existence because
I
this
don't
is
know which one's worse.
exactly like Alexander. It was fucking random, hella boring. Maybe some cooler fight scenes and war scenes than Alexander,
Man.
but still. But I mean, and here's the thing: like, I think the French, if someone from France watches this movie, they're probably gonna hate it. They're gonna fucking hate it.
I think I told you this last night. Like, the French people are up in arms about this movie and they don't like it. And Ridley Scott's response was, "Well, they don't even like themselves." So, I mean, that's fun. That's funny
lean
to
into
me,
it.
but yeah, it's
just
funny.
lean into it. It's pretty much where he's at. So,
well, that's it. That's our thoughts and review of the 2023 Ridley Scott, Joaquin Phoenix starring Napoleon. Don't go see it.
Yeah, it's our second movie this year where we were like super stoked, and it just wasn't. It was just.
Yeah, it wasn't. It was.
I guess third for you.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
Flash creator and
the creator wasn't bad. It just wasn't what I'd hoped it would be. Like, it's not a bad movie. And again, I think it's one of those ones that if I go back and watch it again, I might like it more, which I'm
God
gonna.
damn it.
I'm gonna
Rebel
do.
Moon's gonna fucking ruin us. I hate him.
I'm very even. Well, that's the thing about Napoleon too. Like, I think your expectations for Napoleon were higher than mine were, because I was like, I mean, like, I think, it looks good. It should be a good movie, but I wasn't as like jazzed for it. Still I just didn't like it. I don't.
Yeah,
it was a movie, Kyle, that I'll be honest with you. If I'd have been by myself, I've said this before on this podcast, I think any movie's worth seeing once. It's the kind of movie that, like, if I'd have been by myself and we weren't going to talk about it on the podcast, I may have left because I was tired and I wasn't going to put up with 3 hours of that bullshit.
Yeah, it was fucking weird.
Honestly, 45 minutes into it, I was like, I don't even want to watch this because it doesn't make any sense to me. That's how bad I thought it was. Anyway, that's our review of Napoleon. That takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
Only 5. So we went on brand again today. We didn't throw in any curveballs. We had a couple subjects we thought about talking about, but we decided to do top 5 biopics. So, a biopic, if you will, a biography story movie about a real life person such as Napoleon. Don't worry, that's not on the list.
I feel like your rules for this were probably a little more like in place than mine, because there were some as I was looking through that I was like, that would be considered a biopic. Oh,
well, if it's a true story, true story based on either a person's life written by somebody else or a story written by that person about their life, right? Like, that's biopic. So I did not have any honorable mentions. I just went straight 5 on this one. So I'm going to start with number 5, and the newest movie on this list. I went with Oppenheimer at number 5. I still, as we are getting now into the end of November, after seeing movies like Napoleon and Killers of the Flower Moon, I still think it's probably the award favorite going into award season.
By a mile.
I don't think it's close. I mean,
by a mile.
Honestly, when we get to our end of the year rankings, I mean, there's other movies coming out, not a lot that I think are going to push for contention on this. I mean, I'm going to go ahead and say it now. Like, the only movie I think I saw this year that was better than Oppenheimer was Spider-Man.
It came out this year?
Across the Spider-Verse. The anime.
Yeah. It's a good point.
So Oppenheimer's at number 5. It's a great story. Christopher Nolan does it justice. Cillian Murphy should win an Oscar, I still think.
Please, God, let him win.
He really should. I think Nolan's going to get his best picture. I think Cillian Murphy's going to get his best actor, and I think they're well deserved. At number 4, I had Lincoln. Which is
fucking love that movie.
It's a great movie. I remember, like you talked a little bit about this on our, I think it was not last week, the week before, but Daniel Day-Lewis, like, Gangs of New York, dude's awesome. He's probably one of the best actors of our time, if not the best. He is very much a method actor. He gets engrossed in roles. There's a history of that, but he does very specific movies. He doesn't have he's not making 3 or 4 movies a year, right? He'll go years without making a movie, but he's been nominated for awards multiple times. He's won multiple awards. He's a fantastic actor. His portrayal of Abraham Lincoln is top notch, and it's Steven Spielberg masterfully directed this movie. It's great. If you haven't seen it, I highly, highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah. At
number 3, a movie we just talked about again recently as well, I had Goodfellas.
Yeah,
at number 3.
I saw that on there too.
It's not probably something you think of as a biopic, but it is the story.
That was the movie I was thinking of when I said
kind of when you said that I wondered, but it is the story of Henry Hill and his growing up and joining in the mob and everything that took place, and it's masterfully acted by Ray Liotta. Yes. Obviously, the supporting actors are Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci. It's a fantastic movie. It's masterfully directed by Martin Scorsese. We've talked about it a couple weeks ago, but Goodfellas. At number 2, I had Schindler's List. Spielberg here again. Schindler's List was a Best Picture winner about Oscar Schindler and what his role in saving Jews from the Holocaust. Liam Neeson is amazing in that movie as Oscar Schindler, and obviously he's overshadowed in that movie by the acting of Ralph Fiennes as just the worst Nazi probably in one of the in any film I've ever seen. And then again, that's a Spielberg movie, so that's great. At number 2. At number 1, this one's probably a little out there. I had Hamilton at number 1.
That's left field.
Yeah.
Well, I guess right field.
I had Hamilton at number 1.
Wow.
Okay, so Hamilton's a stage play.
God, what a fucking film.
By Lin-Manuel Miranda, where he plays Alexander Hamilton. It obviously was made into a movie for Disney Plus. That was basically a recording of the stage play. So maybe, left field. Maybe it's I'm cheating a little bit. It's one of the greatest plays ever made. It was
amazing.
Fantastic.
It was a movement.
The acting, it won multiple awards, multiple years, because it won Tonys and then it won Emmys for the movie. If you've never taken the time to listen to or watch Hamilton, you need to 100%, because it's a 10. It's a 10.
It's a 10. It is a amazing movie / story. I agree. I do not have that on my list because I didn't even think about it, but it's up there and it should be. I would agree. It could very easily be number 1 on my list, but I didn't think about that movie when I did mine. So, all right, cool. Love that. Yeah, that I was not ready for that for Hamilton. It's great. It's talk about a movie that really got people interested in history that no one really knew or cared about in our time frame.
Yeah, you
people knew about
man.
it, but no one.
You nailed it. It's a movement.
Yeah, it really was. That I still listen to the soundtrack to that all the time.
As you should.
Okay, so there can be only 5 top 5 biopic movies. I had a tie at number 5 for the movie Lincoln with Daniel Day-Lewis and Capote with Philip Seymour Hoffman. I don't think a lot of people would put that in their top 5, but I just love me some Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Sure.
It's an interesting movie. Interesting enough and well done enough by him that I think that it should be on someone's list. So I made sure to mention it. I actually had an honorable mention, which I totally forgot to mention, but The Darkest Hour, Finest Hour.
Yeah.
I should have wrote that down.
Gary
But
Oldman.
yes, Gary Oldman is just
Winston Churchill.
freaking incredible as Winston Churchill. He did an amazing job. But, okay, that's my honorable mention. Tied for 5 is Capote and Lincoln. And then number 4, I had Oppenheimer. That soundtrack, everything about that movie, it should win best movie this year, all the awards. It's so good. And then my number 3, I have Cinderella Man.
I almost had it on my list.
With Russell Crowe playing James J. Braddock. He is a retired boxer living through like the Great Depression, can't pay for food to feed his kids, to keep the lights on. He's injured, he's got broken bones, so he can't fight anymore. He gets thrown out of boxing by the commission because he's so bad. And they have like the top like number 1 contender is fighting in New York where they live. And the opponent gets injured like the day of the fight, and they need somebody who can fight. So they go to Braddock, they bring him in, and he basically is at a point where he's like, if I don't I've got nothing. If I don't do this, I can't keep my family. And it's like the fucking best like Cinderella story movie that there is. I try to recommend that movie to so many people.
Yep.
I don't think a lot of people have seen it, but amazing actors in it, super powerful. It should be talked about kind of how like Rocky is. It's an awesome boxing movie.
It is. I don't know why, because I agree with you. I think it's overshadowed, and I don't know if it's because like A Beautiful Mind was like before it, and that was like Russell Crowe's,
Yeah,
that was Ron Howard too. Russell Crowe and Ron Howard they did both the movies, and
yeah,
I'm with you though. I think Cinderella Man is highly, highly, highly underrated.
dude. It really should be. Honestly, it should go Gladiator and Cinderella Man, like in order of Russell Crowe movies, in my opinion. So Russell Crowe is James J. Braddock. Paul Giamatti's in it. Renee Zellweger. There's a ton of good actors in it. So that's my number 3. Number 2, I'm shocked you didn't have it on your list, but maybe because it's probably going to be on your next list. This is like the poster child. When I think of a biopic movie, I think of this movie, Walk the Line, with Joaquin Phoenix as Johnny Cash. This movie, when it came out, it was incredible. Like it was like it was so good. He did such a good job of making you think that he was Johnny Cash. He sang all the songs. Nobody knew that Joaquin could sing or at least sound like Johnny Cash. It was I do still listen to music from that movie as opposed to the real stuff. Just a fucking awesome movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, but I freaking love that movie. It's one of Joaquin Phoenix's best. And then my number 1, and this is the one that I'm like, you might look at it and be like, that's not really a biopic, but I look at it as Braveheart. Braveheart, William Wallace. This freaking epic movie that I think I've talked about on the pod before, that I just love Braveheart. Everything about it. There's not a single thing I would change. It's one of the top 3 movies that if I see it on TV at any point, 5 minutes left, 3 hours left, I'm watching it. I'm going to stop what I'm doing and I'm watching.
The only reason I don't have it on my list is because that story is mostly made up.
I know. That's why I said.
That's why.
This one probably doesn't count because it's not.
Well, he was a real person.
It's not historically accurate.
Correct.
The truth was stretched a lot.
Any story that's turned into a Hollywood movie, the truth gets stretched, right? Like it's always gets stretched. Some of them just tend to take multiple people and turn them into one person. That's basically
it's like
what
basically talking about like how the French are probably going to hate this fucking Napoleon movie. The Scottish hate fucking
Yeah.
Braveheart, the movie. I've got a couple friends from Scotland, and they talk about it like they hate it, and they hate that there's a statue of William Wallace there in Scotland, and it's literally fucking Mel Gibson, big statue of Mel Gibson in Scotland. So
That's awesome.
and they say he looked nothing like that. So
yeah,
cool. All right, that's my list.
It's a good list. Like, yeah, Braveheart's a great movie. It's a great movie.
It's a great movie,
but there's a reason it's not on my list.
Yeah,
and then
it's not really kind of like a biography, a biopic.
sure, but it fits the bill.
It fits the bill.
Yeah, I mean, like, that Cinderella Man one. That's a good one because I saw it and I like that movie better than A Beautiful Mind.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
and it's a movie that I'll watch like off, like not necessarily once a year, but it's a movie that if I see it or like I stumble upon it, I'm like, oh shit, like I'm putting that on.
Right.
I keep trying to tell our buddy Anthony to watch it because like it's just fucking great, and I think he would really like it. He's a fighter, so cool. All right, love that. My There Can Be Only Five was top 5 Joaquin Phoenix movies. I thought, we're doing this. Napoleon. We were probably going to talk some shit about it because it wasn't good. And Joaquin Phoenix is an awesome actor. Like, we need to put some shine back on him. So that was where my thought was there. I think next week I'm going to get a little like wild with our top 5, just so we have some fun stuff. I think we haven't talked video games and stuff like that in a while, but the list, look, he's done some weird ass movies.
He has.
He's done some weird movies. He had that one movie where for like 3 years we all thought that Joaquin Phoenix really lost his mind and like retired, and turned out it was just for a movie that he was doing. Weird ass movie. But
I will say this 5. Too. Before you get
it.
going, but I did mine the same way like I did Leo DiCaprio. Like, I did my favorite Joaquin performances. Yeah, maybe not the best movies, but I did I thought his best performances. And there's movies that aren't on here because I haven't seen them, because there's a lot that I actually haven't seen that I hadn't realized. So carry on.
I did the same with my list in terms of like I ranked in order of his performances that I liked the most. Number 5, I have Her, which if you haven't seen Her, it's basically this movie where he falls in love. He's like he's alone. He's a loner. He's a lonely guy who falls in love basically with his Siri on his phone, and it's Scarlett Johansson is the voice, and it's interesting. It's fascinating. He does an awesome job of acting, and it's crazy to have like basically one person on screen and you feel like chemistry and love and heartbreak between like his phone, his computer. But it's actually really good. It's really kind of sad. But it's one of his best performances. So number 4, I love this movie. I actually hate him in this movie, but it's because he's really good at acting. Gladiator, I had at number 4. He's the main bad guy. He is a fucking just a no good, dirty villain in this movie. And it's arguably one of, if not his most memorable movies or performances. All-time greatest movie bad guy from this movie in Gladiator. So, and then number 3, I had Signs. I think we talked a little bit about Signs a couple episodes ago, but I fucking love Signs. It's I wouldn't say it's underrated movie, but it is a really good movie that people don't talk about that often anymore. And his role in it was he fucking nailed the role of this like younger brother, protector of the family, like failed athlete, but you could tell was a great guy that everybody loves, trying to find his way. I really liked him in that movie. And that when I think of Joaquin Phoenix, usually that's like the first movie I think of him. So because he's a good guy, and I don't hate him like I do in Gladiator. So, and then more recently, there's been some movies that people now think of him more for. So, which brings me to my number 2, The Joker. Or Joker, that came out 2 or 3 years ago. Just what a fucking acting job by him. Like just the movie is, I loved this movie. I know a lot of people are you're either on one side or the other. A lot of people didn't like the whole, like, this movie is promoting like that if like the society will put you down and do this, that it's okay to rebel and kill people. And like, that's not really what the movie is about. I mean, that's like part of it, but he's the Joker from the Batman universe. So like he fucking kills people. And this is a story of telling you how that can happen. And I think they were really going for more of like a, push someone so far over the edge, this is what you get. And that fits well with the Joker. My only problem with that movie is like I want it to be more Batman related and like somehow to fit in the Batman world, and it doesn't. So as for now, so we're getting Joker 2. I think will be great. He won an Oscar for it. It was probably his best acting job, I think, overall. Fucking awesome movie, great score. And then number 1, I already mentioned this on my last list, but Walk the Line is my number 1 Joaquin Phoenix movie because of how he became Johnny Cash to do this movie. Like he was Johnny Cash. Like he sang, he did all the singing, like we mentioned, figured out how to be able to do all that and just nailed the character so much so that it made Johnny Cash like re-famous again. Like a new generation that didn't grow up on Johnny Cash, who, like me, thought like anytime I heard Johnny Cash songs, it was like my grandpa's old, like goofy old guy person. And he basically made us all realize how badass Johnny Cash was and how he was like this like rogue fucking just badass. So he did a good job. That's my number 1 movie. And my voice is going away. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, we're almost done. So that's good. I had an honorable mention just because I grew up watching this movie, so I had to throw it on there. But I threw on Space Camp as an honorable mention. If you've never seen Space Camp, it was his first movie ever, and he's like got a lead role in that. But it's actually it's a pretty cool movie. It was one of those like mid '80s movies that like every kid watched at some point because it was on like Super Saturday or something, and it was on TV. So that was at my honorable mention. And number 5, I had Signs for all the reasons that you said. I think he's great in Signs. I love Signs. I think it's an awesome movie. It's my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie more than any other. I think it's my favorite, and I love it.
Yeah.
And he's great for all the reasons you said. At number 4, I had Parenthood. Have you ever seen Parenthood from like 1989?
No.
He's young. He's like a young teenager in this movie. It's a Ron Howard movie. They made a TV series that was really big, like within the last 10 years, which was basically like a spin-off of this movie from like 1989. It's a dramedy, I would say. But it's basically about this big family. Like Steve Martin's the main character, and he's got kids, and then like his sister's going through a divorce, and one of her kids is played by Joaquin Phoenix, and he's kind of this like Keanu Reeves is in this movie as like the teenage boyfriend. Joaquin Phoenix is a kid. There's so many freaking famous people in this movie. It's nuts. But he's like this like loner. He's dejected because his parents are going through a divorce. His mom thinks he's on drugs. He's always coming home with like a paper bag. He's like hiding in his room and stuff. Like turns out it's pornos. But anyway, but he's great as this like troubled, like hates his mom, hates his dad for what they're going through because dad's basically got a new life. He blames his mom for it and all the awesome acting job if you've never seen it. But Parenthood. It's crazy when you think about how long he's been acting, right?
Yeah.
And how talented him and his brother both, you know.
River. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get some repeats here. So at number 3, I had Joker, right?
Nice.
He's fantastic in this movie. I'm very in the middle on this movie on how I thought, like, movies are supposed to make you feel. I don't like bleak movies, and it's a tough tough watch, and it's one of those movies that, like, it's one of those, it's like Killers of the Flower Moon. Like, I saw it once, I don't think I'm going to see it again. It's not one of those, as great as his performance is, it's not one of those movies like I ever need to go see again because of the content of the movie. It's not like I want to feel shitty today. I'm going to watch Joker.
Yeah.
You know?
I think the reason, like, what really put that movie over the edge was the end when he like finally embraces his role and all of like this city gets behind him and he's just like embracing like the chaos.
Yeah.
Like, I just thought that was like he's transformed. This is fucking awesome.
You're right.
Like,
100%.
anyways, sorry.
He's great in it. At number 2, you asked, you were surprised I didn't have this on my last list. At number 2, I have Walk the Line. He's all the things you said about him being Johnny Cash. You look at Joaquin Phoenix and you're like, he's going to play Johnny Cash. And you're like, there's no fucking way.
Yeah.
And then he nailed it. 100% out of the park. Greatest. Awesome.
Yeah.
The only reason I didn't have it on my last list is because I'm not a huge fan of the movie. I'm a huge fan of his performance. Not a huge fan of that movie. I don't like Reese Witherspoon. She takes me out of it a little bit. Okay? She takes me out of it a little bit. I
can see that.
I just don't like her. I've never liked her.
I totally get that, and I agree. I'm with you on that. I think that movie really, like, there's a lot of other movies that we've gotten over the years because of that movie. I think.
I agree.
Like Ray and like even Elvis. Like, I mean, that was a little bit different, but there's some others out there that we got, I think, because that movie just did so good.
Yes, I wouldn't disagree. And I think the way they did it is phenomenal, right? Like, it's the same thing, like you said, it's the same thing with Elvis. Like, Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of Johnny Cash and Austin Butler's portrayal of Elvis Presley, I think those are two sides of the same coin. Yes, they're totally different tonal movies, but Austin Butler did the singing in Elvis.
Yeah. He talks like Elvis.
I had the problem getting rid of that, but so I agree. Anyway, that's what I had at number 2. And then number 1, I had Gladiator. Like, his performance in Gladiator, like everything you said, he is one of the, like, when you watch a movie, you want a villain you want to hate a villain. You hate him so much.
Yeah.
And like, Russell Crowe won an Oscar for his portrayal in Gladiator, but he wasn't the best actor on screen in that movie, in my opinion. Like, I think Joaquin Phoenix outshined him in that movie. And, Russell's the one that won best actor. It is it is what it is, but he's awful in that movie. And he's such a fantastic actor. From Signs to, Joker to Gladiator to Walk the Line, the dude has tons of talent. Yeah. And that's why, like, coming full circle, when you see a movie like Napoleon, you're like,
yes,
damn, like, what he would think he'd be great. And it's just not there. And I don't know if it's not that he can't act. It's the way that portrayal is.
Yeah, I don't know. You'd think that movie would, like, that most actors or some would look at that as potentially like, this is going to be like my, like, grand opus. Like, this is the movie they're going to remember me by, like, doing a biopic like this. And I don't want to use the term phoned it in, but it kind of felt like he had phoned it in, or like just didn't get the character at all. Like, that was kind of what I got.
Listen, all truth out there, like, maybe that's the way Napoleon was. Yeah. But at the same time, like, it just doesn't work for the movie. It doesn't work. Like, you've got to at least, like, we know for a fact he was this brilliant tactician.
Yeah.
but you focus so much on all this other stuff, like it takes away.
You
takes you away.
You never would have known. So
Takes you
I
out
think
of
Joker is the movie that most would now look at him as like, where they talked about like the way he got into character. Like there's like a lot of good behind the scenes interviews from Joker of like the director talking about like Joaquin and how like transcending it felt as they were filming.
Sure.
So,
It's good.
You make a good point of like how you want a villain, you want him to act the role so well that you hate them. It's in contrast to like Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor, that I just hated because I just don't like him.
Right.
You
hated the portrayal. You didn't hate the character, right? And
yes,
like with a good villain's one of two things, right? Like a good villain is either somebody you despise or somebody you adore, right?
Yeah.
Like if you think about the greatest villains in cinema, Darth Vader is adored, right?
Yep.
Put him on a pedestal, Thanos in the MCU, like, listen, like, that's one that is put on a pedestal as well. His character in Gladiator, you despise.
Yes.
And
no one's like, I want to fucking be Joaquin Phoenix's bad guy. Like, we want to be Thanos. We want to be Darth Vader.
Right.
But we hate fucking him so bad we don't want to.
Yeah, when he gets fucking stabbed, you're just
yes. You dirty fucking
you son of a bitch.
When he fucking stabs Russell Crowe before the big battle, it's like that was so on character for him, but it was so fucking, he just found a way. It felt like we all got stabbed in the ribs in that scene. So because he's just a fucking dickhead.
That's how it is. But it's great. Hey, great list. I liked your list. Very similar, obviously, on that one. Yeah, it was good. It was good stuff. But anyway, that takes us to the end of episode 28 of the Movie Dads podcast, the 2023 movie Napoleon. If you're watching us on YouTube, please give us that like and subscribe. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you can find us on several different podcast channels, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Podcast Index. Check out some of our short videos and go find us on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Kyle, we are now done with Practice Christmas and we are full on into the Christmas season. Hopefully everybody's ready because for the next 3 weeks, you're going to get saturated with Christmas content.
Let's bring it on.
3 weeks in a row of Christmas movies lined up, ready to go. Starting next week with the I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen It. God, what's that movie even called? I haven't seen it.
Wasn't it
The Night Before?
Yeah, the Night Before
with
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Seth Rogen, and Anthony Mackie. I've never seen it. Kyle says it's an instant classic.
Probably my favorite Anthony Mackie movie. He's really good in it. His character is fucking awesome.
All right.
So
I'm excited to see it. We're going to do 3 different Christmas movies. We're going to do an adult Christmas movie. This one, we're going to do like a family Christmas movie. And then we're going to do a straight up kids Christmas movie for the next 3 weeks. So we'll save those to tell you about later. But we'll be back next week with the I Can't Believe You Haven't Seen It, The Night Before. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you next week. Bye.